The whispering won't stop at 3 a.m. Hi. I'm here with a scary story for you about the whispering that whoa and stop at 3 a.m. If you like this kind of content, consider following 4 more stories just like this one. And if you want to send me your own scary story, there is a link in the description box down below. Also, don't forget to follow my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes as I do here. Anyway, let's get into the story. The first time I heard the whispering was in January of 2016. I was living in a house with my boyfriend at the time, a roommate, and we had just moved in about a month prior. The house was huge. It was an old Victorian house with creaky floorboards and squeaks everywhere. You could hear the house breathe as the temperature outside changed throughout the day. My bedroom was at the very end of a long hallway. At the end of that hallway was another smaller hallway with 2 doors on it. One of those doors led to my room, and the other was just a linen closet. The door to my room was solid wood, probably close to 8 feet tall and about 4 feet wide. The knob was brass and ornately carved. On the other side of my room was another solid wood door, but it was smaller, probably about 2 feet by 3 feet. This was also the only door in my room that didn't have a window in it. It was painted a very dark blue. No light ever seemed to be able to fully penetrate through it. On the night of January, my boyfriend and I were watching a movie while laying in bed. We had been sick with the flu for a couple of days, and so we were just staying in. About 2:30 a.m., we heard what sounded like whispers coming from behind the smaller door in my room. It wasn't voices that we recognized, but it definitely sounded like people talking. We looked at each other and started laughing. "Oh, that's so crazy," we said to each other, assuming it must have been the wind. We live in a very old house, and sometimes the wind can really make a lot of noise. So we turned our attention back to the TV. About 15 minutes later, the whispers started up again. This time they were louder and closer together. My boyfriend and I looked at each other again. Now, we were both kind of scared. We decided it was best to ignore it, and so we turned our attention back to the TV again. About 15 minutes after that, the whispering started once more. Now it was right at our ears, and we could hear footsteps in our room. We started screaming and crying. Then we both got out of bed and started looking around the room for the source of the noise. That's when we noticed the door. It was slowly opening on its own. We started backing away from it, and then it swung open. Both of us were now terrified. We ran out of the room and into the hallway and didn't come back in until the morning. The morning after, of course. Not sleeping at all, we checked our room for an explanation. There was nothing there. The windows were closed and locked. The doors were closed and locked. Or there were no signs of forced entry anywhere. It was almost as if we had imagined it. My boyfriend and I told our roommate about it, and he just laughed and said that we should have just stayed in our room. He said sometimes the house makes a lot of noise, and you just have to deal with it. Well, we did deal with it by locking the door. For months, everything was fine. No weird noises or disturbances. Then in May, the whispering started again. It was always around 3 a.m. every night. Sometimes it would be quiet, and other times it would be loud enough that it would wake me up. Odd. But never once did I actually hear actual words being spoken. It was just hushed voices, muffled conversations, and footsteps pacing back and forth in front of my closet door. Every night it would start around 2:30 a.m. and last until about 4 a.m. Then it would stop and I would unhear anything else until the next evening, when it would start up again. I decided to ignore it, but it was driving me insane. So finally I asked my boyfriend to check the closet for me to see if there was anything in there, maybe some animals or something. He found nothing. The whispering continued. Then one night I got brave and opened the door myself. Nothing. All that stood in the closet was my clothes and a few extra blankets. That was it. Still the whispering continued. It got to the point where I couldn't take it anymore, and I told my boyfriend I wanted to move rooms. Fortunately, there was an extra room in the house that we could use, so I packed up and moved. For about a week, the whispering continued, but now it was coming from the other room. It sounded like someone was talking, moving around, pacing, even coughing and sneezing. It was like a full-on seance happening in that room. Then suddenly it stopped. It went silent. I thought maybe it had followed me into this new room. But one night I woke up to what sounded like screams. Blood-curdling screams coming from the closet in my new room. I was instantly terrified. What if it had followed me? What if it was in there? What if it was trying to get out? I immediately got out of bed and ran to the other side of the room, away from the closet. I didn't want to see whatever was in there. I just wanted it to leave me alone. In the morning after, of course not sleeping at all, I got up and slowly walked towards the closet, trying to convince myself that there was nothing in there. When I got close enough, I could hear a faint scratching sound. Whatever was in there was trying to get out. I didn't think twice. I just started ripping clothes out of the closet, dumping them on the floor, throwing hangers all over the place. I needed to find out what was in there. Was it an animal? Was it a person? Was I in danger? I emptied the whole closet and then slowly opened the door.
Standing in front of me was the biggest, fattest ginger cat I'd ever seen in my life.
She stared at me with her big green eyes and then took a swipe at my hand. "Shoo," I said, laughing, and she ran out of the room. No more whispering, no more scratching, and no more blood-curdling screams in the middle of the night. Now, whenever I hear a noise in the middle of the night, I just assume it's the cat. She passed away a year ago, but I still hear her little paws running around the house sometimes. Maybe I've just gotten used to the whispering.